So when I was younger, my sister used to always do the storytelling competition, and she would have to memorize folk tales and then rehearse them and recite them, and because folk tales are usually told orally, which I thought was really cool. So I have this book called Favorite Folk Tales from Around the World. And in this book, they had The Toad Bridegroom, and it's a Korean folktale. There was also a German version called like The Frog Prince. And I chose this story because it was kind of familiar, but also because it teaches a theme that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, and it also like really highlights how like in Korea like luck is very important. Because the frog basically says like I'll bring you good fortune if you take me home, and the only issue I had with this book is like a little unrealistic. Like I just felt that some of the stuff that they said was reaching, but it basically, and it actually isn't a children's book. I mean, my sister told this story when she was in 4th grade, but there are no illustrations, but it's still super interesting. And basically this daughter kisses the frog, and then he like cuts off of his skin and is actually a person. So that's like not like the Frog Prince. I feel like the Frog Prince, when you kiss him, he just like turns into a person. This time you have to actually physically cut the frog's skin.
Oh wow.
Which is pretty graphic, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Right. So my book is called Korean Children's Favorite Stories, and it's a compilation of folk tales. And the reason I chose it was because it makes use of a lot of negative space. The images really allow children to fixate on the pictures themselves. And I personally work with children, so as I read this to them, what happens is similar to the Kamichibai stories. Because the words are very difficult for them to understand, I tend to kind of do my own thing and just explain morals of the stories in dumbed down language to them. That way they can kind of internalize the lessons and stuff, which is very it helps with the children's development, the cognitive development. But one gripe that I had also was because the language is a little difficult and it's kind of created like an adult's book, children can't exactly read these books on their own, which kind of puts an odd barrier. And it allows me to question why a book would be kind of created this way. However, on the bright side, as an adult, you do get to teach the children about these types of stories. So the compilation was a big factor in why we chose this book.
Do you want to go or I go? Okay. I don't actually have my text on me, but I was able to find it online, and the book that I chose is called The Princess and the Beggar. And the reason why I chose this book, like what caught my eye, was the illustration. I see that the princess is crying, and I was wondering why she was crying, and so I read the book, and basically the tale was about a princess who cries a lot, and that annoyed her parents, and her dad, who is a king, said, "Oh, I'm going to marry you off to the beggar." And for like a royal like person to marry a beggar is a kind of a big deal and like a humiliation, and so she cried hearing that. And then a few years later, when it was time for her to marry a noble man, she went to her dad and said, "Remember how you said you're going to marry me off to the beggar? Well, guess what? I'm going to marry the beggar." And that made the king outrageous, and I mean, outrageous? Made the king outrageous. Oh, outraged. Made the king outraged, thank you. And like, he exiled her to marry the beggar, and while they were together, she taught him how to read and stuff like that, read, write, and just like hunt. And so the king hosts a competition every year to see like who hunts the best and like who rides like horses the best, I think. And so the beggar actually won those events, and the king wanted to meet him and also the wife who like he is married to, and it turns out like the wife is his daughter. And at the end, the king was like, "Oh, I am so happy for you. What would you like?" And the daughter said, "I don't want anything from you, Dad. I just want to serve you," which made me have a problem with that because I felt like that was trying to teach a wrong message to children if like they read this. So that's why we did not choose this book. That's
The book that I chose, I also do not have the book, but it's called Lan Popo, and basically it's a version of Red Riding Hood with the wolf. There are 3 daughters, and basically they are left alone at the house at night. A wolf comes in and pretends to be their mother, but as the children make the mistake of letting the wolf in, they are able to cleverly outsmart the wolf from time to time, again and again, to ensure that the wolf does not eat them. Finally, they lure the wolf outside and they climb up the tree. And they trick the wolf into jumping into a basket, where they continuously drop the basket down with the wolf on it until they reach a high enough altitude, and then they drop him to die. Now, the reason why I'm so attached to this story is the way it's visualized. The colors that they use for this book in particular is very dark and very ominous, and it's very visualizing, it's creepy, and it really captivates a kid's attention, it captivates a kid's nightmares, even though it tells a good story about outsmarting and not basing people off looks. Now, presumably, as interesting as the story was, I would not suggest this because of how it's colored. They use a lot of reds and blacks. So, while it is meant for children, I don't think it's like a good thing to show them if they're going to learn. Maybe because it looks very scary.
So collectively as a group we chose this book, more specifically the story of the tiger and the rabbit. And in a nutshell, it's essentially about this tiger's quest in search of food, and due to this rabbit's expertise in manipulating, he can never really eat the rabbit. And toward the end of the story, the tiger gets caught by a group of people and captured because of his greed. Now, the function of this story for children would teach them, similar to a sermon in how it's a story of punishment due to greed, but in an odd way, there's a lot of positive messages to teach contentment, and that's ultimately why we chose this story.
okay.